This is Storytellers and Storysellers live on tape with Vineet Kanabar on the IVM Podcast Network. I have worked in entertainment for the better part of the last decade, and it's a fascinating place with fascinating people who are plying their trade every day, trying to do interesting things with interesting people who are supremely talented. But it takes supremely talented people behind the scenes to make things happen for these on-screen giants. Today we're talking to one such supremely talented person who has made a career out of working in entertainment with some of the top stars, brands, and musicians. Say hello to Tanaaz Bhatia. Tanaaz, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vineet. We are finally making it to the show, so I'm very
We are.
happy.
Yeah, and it's on my preferred time. A Saturday afternoon is there's no better time than a Saturday afternoon to sit and talk about.
Not my preferred time, but
I know, I'm joking. Tanaz, great to have you. Yeah? Like you said, we've been trying to pull this together for a while. I'm so glad that we've been able to do this now. Before I throw this over to you to sort of introduce yourself to my audiences, let me set some context for them. I think it was about 2008 when Tanaz up and left from her investment banking job in the UK to come to India and start a company called Bottomline Media. 12 years on, Bottomline Media works with some of the biggest stars in the country, some of the biggest music labels in the country as well. And if we had our way, some of the biggest brands in the country as well. Tanaz, tell us about how this journey started. Give us a quick whirlwind tour of your life before Bottomline Media and since. Yeah,
wow, it makes it sound really old when you speak like that. But
age is just a number.
yeah, age is just a number, as they say. No, but actually, it's 10 years this year. Actually, it was 10 years last year when
Right.
we actually Bottomline Media was born. But more so, I genuinely don't know how this company came about. I mean, if I have to sit back and think through it, no idea when it happened, how I'm doing what I'm doing currently. So I used to be a banker on Wall Street, which was what everybody likes to do, right? When you graduate from business school. So
Right.
graduating from Stern, it was the next logical thing. You're either a consultant, you're an investment banker, or then you take up some fancy job in Marcom, depending on what you specialize in.
Right.
Um, Strangely, I always wanted to be an investment banker. And that's what I did. And I did that for 8.5 years on Wall Street. So I think I worked with every investment bank that shut down.
Wow. Okay.
So you start with Merrill Lynch, then it was Lehman,
Right.
then it went to Bear Stearns, and then of course Goldman Sachs. They didn't shut down, but they had some sort of an issue. But then luckily I moved back to India because I had to. And
It'll be a day when Goldman Sachs shuts down, right? That'll
no,
be a
it
day.
didn't shut down. They had some sort of a thing on Wall Street because they were, they were just consolidating the business of all
Right.
the investment banks with the SEC, etc. But I moved back to India working with the Goldman Sachs partner, Kotak. Then again, I had no idea I was going to be working there. I
Right.
happened to pass by the office. They said, "Hey, come over for an interview." I said, "Sure." I went, met them, and I left, and I had a job. So I was like, okay,
Right.
so let's try this. So when I was in India, I started working with them. I started covering the media, entertainment sector. I had the coolest boss. I mean,
Right.
he's still friends with me and he still says that the day you decide to kick this up, come join me again. I'll hire you back again.
Right.
But yeah, I covered media and I did deal origination for mergers and acquisitions, which sounds so bloody boring compared to what we do today. But nevertheless, that's what I did. And I loved finance. I loved what I used to do and so on and so forth. But one fine day, I guess, I have, you grew up in Bombay and in Bandra particularly, you have friends who are directors, actors, producers. We go to school with half of them, Bombay, Scottish, all of this,
As you do.
everybody. And so just generally happened to catch up with a friend of mine and he was like, you should do something on your own. I was like, yeah, I can't do this. Entrepreneurship is not my cup of tea. I would never be able to do it. And I happened to meet Ronnie Screwvala in one of my deals. At
Right.
that time, he was looking at starting Spotboy.
Right.
and he was with UTV, right, at that time.
Of
UTV
course.
was my client, so we were working and speaking. So he said, "Hey, you should think of joining me." I considered it, and I shadowed him around for a couple of days, and I
Right.
loved the way I saw the passion that he has, right? And I was like, "Oh, cool." And he said, "You should work with me." And then a friend of mine said, like, "Are you crazy? If you're working for him, you may as well start your own stuff, because if you're making that shift." I still
Right.
didn't have the guts. I said, "You're all crazy people." So then I moved to Citibank.
Right.
I was in Citibank about, I would say, 6 months. And then I
Right.
was like, I really can't do this. And I quit. I quit not knowing what my company was going to do. I quit just knowing that I'm going to have a company. So in 2008, no, 2009, I incorporated the company. I
Right.
was still on my garden leave trying to figure out what I'm going to do. The company didn't start till 2010 officially. The company, the name, I had registered the name, and of course, I don't know if you get the connection, but if you're a banker, you understand that bottom
Of
line
course.
is the final word.
Of
And
course.
in most conversations, whenever you speak with clients and they say, no, bottom line is this has to happen. So, I mean, that was my premise of getting that company. And so that's how the company started. I had no idea what we were going to do. I had never done marketing in a day in my life. Um, Bollywood was taboo in my family because nobody is from Bollywood.
Right.
And when I told my mom and my sister and everybody at home, they said, "You're on your own to do this. But if you still want to do it, we'll back you." So I said,
Right.
"Cool." It sounds really filmy when I say this, but I started off in a coffee shop.
Of course you did.
In a coffee shop in Bandra, which no
Right.
longer exists again,
What was it called?
Gloria Jeans.
Oh yeah, there was a Glory Jeans in Bandar. You're right.
Yes. Right in on Turner Road. So I started over there and I dipped into all my savings as a banker.
Right.
And I decided to be like those cheap entrepreneurs. So I used to have hot water over there, believe it or
Right.
not,
Right.
because I couldn't afford it. And because I used to go there so often, the guys over there started giving me. Obviously, once in a while, I used to get free coffee, tea, whatever. So that
Right.
was cool. But I met my first friends in Bollywood from official friends, I would say, on my own at Gloria Jeans, Vishal Shekhar.
Right. Of course. The
So
Vishal Shekhar.
yes, their studio was right next door. So they used to
Right.
come there at least 5 times a day. And I used to be sitting there doing my meetings or whatever it is. And that's how I started. I met them, and now they're actually really dear friends of mine. I met Tarun Mansukani with them as well, Anubhav Sinha, Sujit, Sughosh as well.
Mhm.
So all of these guys I met there, and it was really funny because when we look at it, I was like, yeah, I used to wait for you guys to come to get me coffee because I couldn't afford it at that time.
Wow, man. And it's quite a big climb from there, right? I mean, 10 years on, Bottomline works with some of the biggest labels in the country. You're managing work for Gauri Khan almost exclusively, if I'm right. Um, you're working with so many talents, right? Across the board, you've got stuff coming out for luxury brands. Bottomline's well and truly taken off.
Yeah, it's. I guess it's a journey, right? Because
Right.
you have to adapt and be agile enough to pick up from what's going on. You can't just say, "Hey, I started off as this," and because I started off there, I have to just remain there. So I would say like initially, um, I I had friends who went to college with me,
Mhm.
and basically they owned GS Entertainment. They were doing a movie,
Right.
so he was like, "Oh, come on board. You can do the marketing of it." And even when I quit, I did interview with two production houses. I won't
Right.
name them. And I still remember the producer telling me, "Oh, we can't hire you. We'll hire you as an intern and we'll pay you $2,000 a month."
Amazing.
And I was just looking at that guy like, okay, but thanks and no thanks. And it's kind of cool that now when you meet that same two producers, the different kind of thing, they try to call you to work with them, and I don't really care. But it's
Mhm.
a full
Mhm.
circle, right?
Mhm.
We started off with this movie called Lama, which
Right.
was I don't even it was Bipasha and Sanjay Dutt, and
Right.
they were friends of mine. I worked for $75,000 for a year. I mean, that was piddle shit, I would say, but it was really nothing. And I said, that's okay, I'll figure it out. I wanted to learn how to do everything. That was the movie that gave me a chance to learn production. And I was on the set every day. right from direction to what they were doing with, managing the finance and how to manage the day to day, of the extras and
Right.
everything. It's amazing. It's fascinating to see what, comes about and how a movie comes about it.
Right.
It's I didn't know that to be an extra you have to actually wait to get your turn, and they are really hardworking people.
Absolutely.
What we see is nothing, and it was just an eye opener. And yeah, I got to Rahul Dolakia was a director, is a really close friend of mine now. So it's kind of cool that actually cemented friendships that I have going forward. Sanjay, that was amazing. He liked my work so much, so he started introducing me to his friends who were producers and directors, and that's how I started. It was just word of mouth.
Right.
Um, I, of course, had known the Khans, Salman, Sohail, etc., for a while as kids before, because we had my really close friend is related to them. So we used to hang out there as kids. And when I told them I was starting the company, they said, "Why aren't you doing our stuff?" So then that's how I
Right.
started working with them. And my first movie was a movie called Mayor Mrs. Khanna. So, it kind of brings a little bit of memories because that's the first movie where it's interesting because we did stuff with Make My Wish Foundation. And that was the first time, you can actually see that working and doing what you're doing, you can make a difference in someone's life. And it
Right.
was so cool because Salman, and Suhail and Karina, all of them took time out to spend time with kids who were terminally ill, and their
Right.
dying wish was to meet them. And it was so beautiful that, that actually started the pattern for me that every year I have to do one thing that to
Hmm.
give back.
Hmm.
So it started off with that, with the movie. The next year it was something else. I used to pick up NGOs for kids in different parts of Mumbai and get my actor friends to help. So
Beautiful.
the next year I did it with Sajid Wajid and Arjun Rampal,
Right.
and I got my brands to help. So I got McDonald's to come on board, and I got the pen brand Link pens, and they made goodie bags, and they actually gave us a space to host these kids. I
Beautiful.
mean, it was so every year something happens, and that's I think I followed it almost every year except last year because of COVID. But
Right.
then again, we gave back in the way we could as a company, whatever we could for the employees or whatever it is that we could. So that's I guess everything that you do is a learning experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I believe it or not, we started off as a movie marketing company,
Right.
only doing movie marketing. So at that point, I would say it was a lucrative business.
Right.
Not even lucrative, it was an untapped business. And there were people doing it, but they weren't doing it. They were doing it as cookie cutter, right? I
Hmm.
don't know if you remember that. It was the movie Yade with Hrithik
Pass.
Roshan.
Pass.
Yes. And also the glucose biscuit.
Right. And
And
I think Pepsi or Coke.
Horlicks. No, Horlicks or Bonvita. He mixes it.
Oh yeah, yeah. He had Bonvita. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Extremely
The,
cookie cutter. If that's it's like
yeah.
putting an ad in a film. Pass pass.
Yeah.
आप खाओगे pass pass? I still
And
remember that scene, man. It's like it's tattooed in my head.
yeah, so when I started off, that's what people told us, right? They told me this is what we need. We need something at the backdrop. So that's the brand you got to get and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, cool, cool. Let's try doing that. And believe it or not, at that time that worked because
Right.
that's what brands used to do. There was no digital, none of that. I had family friends who knew Juhi Chawla, her late brother, who I would say my guardian angel till date, Bobby Chawla.
Right.
So I met Bobby and they were doing a film which Roshan Abbas was directing.
Right.
Always Kabhi Kabhi.
Always Kabhi. I know Always Kabhi Kabhi because Roshan has told me this story at length on the show that we were doing. But please go on.
Google that movie, the
Uh-huh.
worst in film ever,
Right.
and that movie will show up. And my name will show up.
Really?
So it was my first like in depth, right from the
Right.
script. So when
Right.
you see it, even I look at it today, I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that.
But you
But
need those things to happen in your life. That's
yeah, but I managed to pull it off.
right.
And I raised almost 1 crore for that movie, which had no stars.
Beautiful.
So it was with Coca-Cola, the brand called Fanta.
Right.
And I don't know if they used to have this animated Prasun Joshi had written the lyrics.
Right.
It was for Fanta, and they had animated characters, and we had to integrate that with the movie.
The
So
animated characters.
guess what I did? I got the whole TVC in the goddammit movie.
Beautiful.
You
Beautiful.
have to Google it. Trust me, it is
I
the
will. I will.
worst
How
thing
I
that
will.
you see. And I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe we did that. We did some cool integrations there. I would add, not
No,
all
I'm
bad,
sure you have. Yeah.
but that one took icing on the cake. I was like, oh my god. And I guess somewhere it was also because it's Roshan's first movie, and you know, now directors take a call, and even we take a call that, you know, you can't do it. And when a brand asks you to do stuff, sometimes you, oh, cool, we'll do this, we'll do that. And so cutting the long story short, so Bobby had told me that, you know, if you do this movie and if you do it well, and nobody wanted to pick up this movie,
Mhm.
no agency was ready to touch this movie because it was a newbie. They said,
Right.
oh, we can't do anything. I said, no problem, I'll do it. For the
Mhm.
longest time, I was only two people. It was me and another girl.
Right.
And when we started this movie, we did it. So he said, okay, now I'll introduce you to Shah Rukh to work on the movie Ravan, which was
Right.
like iconic in marketing. So I
Of
said,
course.
cool, let's. So I started working on it. Still, it was, you know, I was one of the 100 agencies who were pitching to get the business there. So we worked, we got a couple of things and very standard stuff, right? I was working on very standard deals and got it done. And I'm the kind of person who doesn't like to do normal stuff.
Right.
I find it very boring. It's not
It
that you
is.
can't do it, but I find it exciting. Something like yourself as well. You like to do all different stuff, right?
Yeah.
With the deals that we've tried to strike or close
Yeah. Absolutely.
with brands. But we started off with this movie, and you know, we were working on Shah Rukh was doing a schedule in Goa.
Mhm.
So Ducati, which was an international brand of bikes, I wanted to get Ducati to be part of it. And Shah
Right.
Rukh loves the brand and so on and so forth. And he said, sure. So that was the first time I ever met Shah Rukh. You know, the adulation and everything you
Mhm.
see, you know, you're really nervous because you can't, it's different. You, in your head, you've planned out 20 things you want to say.
Right.
But when you meet there, oh, here, see, take. That was literally the conversation I had. And then of course Shah Rukh really warms you up when you start talking to
Mhm.
him.
Mhm.
And then he started asking questions, and then he said, oh, okay, this looks cool, let's do this. So that's how Ducati came to be part of the movie. So if you
Right.
see Ravan, the entire movie is about the chase on the Ducati with Jivan
Right.
and Ravan, who's the villain. So it was all going well, and I wanted to do McDonald's, and I wanted to do. So I started working on a thing that was an impossible thing, that to do introduce a Happy Meal for a Bollywood movie.
Right.
Um, Nobody's done it, so I said no problem, I'll work on it. Then I wanted to do a video game, so I started working on that too. Sony PlayStation, they only
Right.
do Hollywood films; they've never
Right.
done Bollywood.
Right.
So I said, okay, let's start working on it. And Bobby was like, yeah, go for it. It sounds cool, so on. Unfortunately, after we came back, Bobby got an aneurysm and was admitted in the hospital.
That's tough.
Yeah. The tougher part was he was my only contact point in Red Chilies. And he was
Right.
the only person I knew. I didn't know what to do.
Right.
Um, I was distraught because I was like, I've just started. The only person who backed me in the industry is, he's not talking to me and whatever. Um, so that, you know, that entire period was really tough because
Mhm.
obviously everything was on halt, and you know, we were in the hospital every day.
Right.
What happened then is I decided to write an email to Shah Rukh that, hi, you know, I don't think too many people know this, but it was an email that I wrote, hi, I'm so and so, I only knew Bobby, I don't know what to do, please advise. I got a reply back in less than 10 seconds.
Wow.
Come meet me at home at Mannat, 2 p.m. tomorrow, love Shah Rukh.
Right.
I was shocked. I didn't know. I mean,
This
this
was 2014, 13, 14,
uh,
something like that.
10, but I don't remember actually.
No. Sure.
Whenever,
Go on. Go on.
no, whenever Ravan was happening.
Round is 2012, is it? Yeah. No, no, no. It'll
Yeah,
be earlier. About
2010.
2010 should be
No,
Ravan.
2011, 11.
Yeah,
Because,
2011 is Ravan. You're right.
yeah, it came up as that. So I was like,
We
okay,
do live fact checks on the show anyway, so I just googled it.
yeah. I was in shock, yeah, Vineet. I mean, I'm walking into Manat.
Right.
I mean, I'm not. So I was like, okay. So waiting there, and there were the other people who were already who know Shahrukh and who are part of Red Chilies, and they were sitting there. And obviously, right, everybody has their own clique of people that they work with. And I got a lot of resistance to let me in to the space to start working from other people. I'm not saying. And when I met Shahrukh, I told Shahrukh, this is all the stuff that we were working on. I want to do this, I want to do that. And I wanted to do like the Happy Meal that I wanted to do. I'm talking to McDonald's. I'm trying to do this with another brand, which is going to be a worldwide branding deal. As in, I wanted the movie to be in every country through this brand. So he said, that sounds great. You must do it. And then I was trying to do something which no film till date has ever been, ever done. Is
Right.
we struck a deal with Volkswagen to basically what they did is they gave us the cars.
Mm-hmm.
They gave us the cars to destroy. They gave us the entire production support for an international schedule for 3 months.
Wow.
So that reduced the cost of production significantly.
Right.
I got tickets from an airline, so the entire crew traveled on that airline,
Right.
and all of that. So basically, those were things I was in the process of working on. So I was talking to. So I told Shahrukh that, and Shahrukh just turned around. He said, "Going forward, you're working with us. Please tell everybody in Red Chilies." And I said, "Da-da-da." I said, "Okay." It was like you had to have somebody pinch you to say this just happened.
Right.
So I was like, okay. And yet I was like, just okay. And I walked. I must have barely said 2 words. Again, a lot of resistance. Typically,
Right.
like you have politics and all that stuff. But Shahrukh actually just managed to make everything better.
Right.
And we were traveling to London the next month. So I was supposed to go for 10 days
Right.
to set everything up and come back. I stayed there for 3 months.
Wow.
Because every time I planned to do something and I wanted to do a different marketing idea, when you sit down with Shahrukh, if you think you know something and you said, "Oh, this is my expertise, I know it really well," and when you're sitting with him, he will open an aspect of it that you will say, "Oh, I never thought of it like that."
Just didn't imagine before. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're like, "Damn, I thought I knew everything, but this person knows more than me." And
Sure.
it just makes you want to read more and learn more. And
Right.
it's interesting and amazing to see the kind of ideas that come about from that man. It's great.
You wouldn't expect anything less, would you? Right. From the Bacha.
No.
Right. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for that introduction. It was very. It was like listening to a movie being played out. Uh, Tell me this, and I'll pick out a few things before we go to the next section. It must have been hard to up and leave from the world of finance, and like you said, you always wanted to be an investment banker, right? To up and leave from that world, come back here, and sure, you knew people, and as you do, you've grown up here, know people who are now doing interesting things. What did it take in that early beginning, not when Shahrukh happened, and of course when Shahrukh happens to your life, you know that life is going all right, but before that, right? If you tell us, if you can tell us what did it take for you to convince yourself that, hey, this is what I need to do, and how did you start building up the skills? Like you said, you hadn't done a day of marketing, and now here you are, trying to pull off one of a kind deals in one of a kind movies. There's a lot of upskilling and a lot of motivation that would go into trying to do something like that. How did you navigate that?
It happens from it happens it actually I don't know actually. One fine day you have to get the guts and say, okay, fine, this is it. And you can be great at doing something and you can be good at it. But the day I had always decided that the day I wake up and I say, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to pick up and pack my bags and start doing something else. And that's what I actually tell even people when they work for me. I said, the day you decide that you don't want to come into work, not because you're not learning anything or, it's so boring, I'm doing the same thing. I'm great at it. It's not that I'm not good at it, right? I can do it. But if you can do things eyes closed at the back of your hand, and it's just every day, same stuff, there's no challenging thing. And that's when I decided I wanted to do this. Again, I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm being very honest. If today you had asked me, I'd be doing content and production and conceptualization for campaigns from start to finish and figuring out which celebrity is going with this brand. Can't tell. But it takes guts, and one fine day, some thread has to snap in your head. That's the only thing. In anything, right? Unless it's like a habit. If you
Right.
don't decide yourself, you can't do it. That's just what happened. I guess I also got bored, to be honest.
Right, that's the most honest answer one could expect, right? Just a thread snaps in your head. You find the motivation and the drive to do something, and wanting to do something new and different. I mean, for me, I am not anymore now that I'm slightly older and half of my beard has gone white. But when I was younger, I used to have a major problem doing anything for the third time, right? Like a major problem. I do the
Really?
yeah, I do it the first time just for the thrill of it, because hey, I'm doing something for the first time, I'm going to learn something, etc. I do it the second time to do it like absolutely right. Then if you ask me to do it the third time, I would just like internally I would cry, right? Because I had that whole thing, it's so boring, why do it again? Now I realize that doing things the third time makes you even better at it, and the fourth time makes you even more money, and the fifth time makes you like closer to someone who can do it the best in the country or something like that, and that repetition has value. But when I was younger, I would just run away from things when if you ask me to do it the third time. So I identify with that sentiment a lot. But I think what I also identify with a little bit is how you said at the beginning that entrepreneurship is not for me. It's not something that I thought about. Right? I've worked at a startup. I've worked with startups, advising them, mentoring people who are going into a founder's journey. But yeah, I never thought that it's something for me. And I'm glad the way you put it. Right? Someday a thread has to snap in your head, and you just push off from there. Let me pivot this back and talk about who you're working with these days. So Red Chili is obviously someone you work with very closely. Who are the other big or small interesting companies that you're working with right now?
I think it's an amalgamation of people that I'd like to say I'm working with. Working with even people who are like me at their starting point, working with them and just helping them through, talking through their journey on what they want to do is those people I'm working with. I'm
Sure.
working with a lot of celebrities, um, working with a lot of the brands that we have across Airbnb, Pride of Cows, a whole load of brands. But more interestingly, I think, it sounds wrong to say, but we are there whenever there is an opportunity for any brand that we think where we can break the normal box and
Right.
do cool stuff with them.
Right.
I would say, we've been really fortunate enough to start working with Airbnb from the time they started. So Amanpreet and Simran, the two people who've been, I think, from the start till now.
Right.
But they, they believe. I'm glad that they've, helped been with us and let us be with them through the journey. Even, we do cool different things like putting Shah Rukh and Gauri's house in Delhi,
Right.
which Gauri designed with their memories on Airbnb. It's the first time a Bollywood star has even done that, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
You have to see that house to believe it. She's designed it so well
Oh,
and
I saw the
captured
pictures.
their
Yeah, I saw
yeah,
the pictures.
and
Yeah.
she's captured their memories so well that for a fan, it's a dream come true.
Right.
That's the closest you can get to. Um, Working on campaigns where it kind of, you look back, right? You're the with McDonald's, you're the first ones to start the whole trend of Happy Meals and Bollywood branded meals. I think we did all the not unhealthy, I would say all the fast food foods. We did all meals for them. So right from McDonald's, we did stuff with Cafe Coffee Day. We did stuff with Madover Donuts. So we had
Right.
two states donuts. We had Happy New Year donuts. We've had Krish donuts. We've had Go Goa Gone Go donuts. And it's so cool because all of them,
And I haven't got a single one of those. I'm just saying. I'm
it's
joking. I'm joking.
And if you were in my office at that time, believe me, we used to sample these donuts every day.
Beautiful. That sounds like my dream job. Yeah, sampling donuts.
You get food,
Yeah, I
all
love.
the food.
Yeah, absolutely. And anything sweet and unhealthy is all for me. That sounds amazing. Let me ask you about your work with Gauri. So Shah Rukh happened, and you started working with Red Chilies, and now you're working with uh, Gauri
Oh,
Khan on a bunch
oh,
of things
oh,
that she does,
yeah.
right?
So actually, it was just a thought where we were talking with a couple of brands, and she has, she's fabulous at what she does, right?
Right,
And she had never done any partnerships with a brand except I think D Decor with Charu, which is
right.
a long going thing that's going on. So they said, we were just ideating, and they said it would be great if Gauri would design the line. So
Mhm.
I didn't know Gauri at that point personally. So we just happened to put the proposal across. She liked the idea. The next thing I know, we're chatting with her. The deal goes through, and she's designing saris for Satyapal.
Right,
And it was a fabulous thing because you get to see creativity on a different level.
right,
And it's not somebody who's gone to NIFT who's actually sitting and sketching, but this person is pure passion and just talented, and you see her sketch and then it
right,
happens, and that's how it started. So one thing led to another, and yeah, and I would say uh, we've been lucky enough to find the right things for her to partner with, right from Airbnb to a couple of international brands. It's been a great journey, and you have to just, I mean, I believe that you have to get that one chance.
right.
So when
And you have to
I mean,
take it. You get it and you
yeah,
don't take it, that's a different story
but
altogether.
also, Vineet, it goes back to a point where, when I started off and when I interviewed with a couple of people to give me that chance, they just at flat out said no. I mean, if it was not for Bobby or Suhail and Salman to give me that chance, right?
Right.
You have to let that person say, okay, fine, you know what, give it a shot and we'll see. So today, if somebody interviews with me and we've come from a different field, and I don't say no immediately. For me, I don't think your qualification is something that gets you hired. I think it's your
Mhm.
determination, grit, and just your willingness to learn.
Right.
And from that point, I'm just, we've been really lucky from that sense that anytime we've put an idea across, we've brands have heard it. And
Right.
when you mentioned how do you upskill yourself, I love to read. And
Right.
I believe in that one thing. Every idea is born from an idea.
Right.
So I read a lot I read even the most random marketing, the subscription things that come to you. I read every goddamn thing. I read the banker in me doesn't stop reading the part of when companies get funded, and if they're getting funded, what do they do with the funding? It's a different kind of way to kind of position to figure out the plan for a company.
Mhm.
But I read that, then it's just simple things. If something is launched globally, I try and find out how they've launched it just to learn, not because
Right.
I'm doing
Right.
it, but that's how I've learned. And reading books, talking to people, listening to podcasts, I would say interesting podcasts.
Fantastic. I think reading is supremely underrated
Yeah,
in its
today's day and
ability
age.
to change the way you approach things, to give you new skills, new paradigms, for sure. And I will come back to asking you more about your reading in a section later on, because I love to read as well, and I think I love talking about reading with people who like to read also. But flipping back to what you do, right? I think we talked about working with talent. You told us about how it was important to get that break, and you also told us what people see in you when they give you that break, right? They need to see that passion, that determination, the ability to be better at what you're doing, the ability to deliver well. Another big part of what you do is working with sort of luxury and premium brands, right? That's another whole different world, right? How has that experience been for you? How's that space worked out with what you've done and what you've done? And I know that you've done some amazing, interesting work with some of the biggest brands out there. So tell us how that space has worked out for you.
That's been when you say different things, it's it's taking from what they do globally and adapting it to India. So
Right.
when we did the launches for Michael Kors or Tumi and couple of brands, you have to work with the international guys. And what it
Right.
teaches you is meticulousness and how to dot your I's and cross your T's.
Right.
They have everything nailed right till the tray that the person is going to serve. They have that outlined for you,
Wow.
the color that it is.
There's no
The
jugaad.
no, you have to stick with it. If
Right.
the bottle has to be a glass bottle, it has to be a glass bottle. Everything has to go, and it's been interesting, and I'm saying interesting again, but they have a different skill set and a different way outlook to life
Hmm.
and a different outlook to how brands are perceived. Also, I will add that at that point, brands were people didn't spend that much money on luxury brands in India.
Hmm.
They used to go abroad and buy it. Of
Right.
course, now it's become available. Price points are more competitive, so it's interesting. And more and more trying to do things with the luxury brands that adapt to India. So, for example, Todd's, partnering with Rahul Mishra to create a bag, trying to do things like that, which kind of open up the international brand to the Indian market and the culture and the talent and, makes it available for people all over. We did something interesting at, I can't remember which credit card company it was from. But it was an experience that, for me, it was a thrilling experience. And I'm sure the people who saw it. So, if you see a bag, a leather bag of Todd's,
Hmm.
there is an artisan who actually sits and, with a hammer and puts the whole label in it. And
Right.
the way the stitching is done, they actually got that person and the machine to India and they showed it to people. So if Vineet was buying the bag, his initials were carved into it and he got that bag. It was beautiful. It was just something, when you're like watching, I mean, of course, I know India has a lot of talent as well, but you don't see an Indian brand being made like that. And when you
Right.
see an Italian brand, you know that it's known for its craftsmanship and the leather and all of it. It was great. The experience was fabulous.
So I love it. I love the way you approached it, and you talked about how making collaborations or opening up the India market to them. Because um, if you go back to a pre-internet time, luxury brands or exposure to luxury brands, so to speak, would only happen when a relative was returning from abroad, or
Correct.
you had gone for some kind of a shopping trip, or not a shopping trip. I don't think people had shopping trips back then, but you had a trip. Right now you have shopping trips and people are just, I'm going to Dubai to do what? I'm going to shopping. Okay, like, brilliant. Okay. But that's the very interesting technique, I would say, to introduce culturally what a luxury brand means, right? Because um, Indians don't have a sense for luxury, right? For us, luxury is still artisanship as opposed
Correct.
to quality output, right? Or as opposed to processes. We would say chicken curry would be our equivalent of luxury, right? The Indian manner of doing things, because it's so intensive. But introducing those facets of luxury, let me ask you this: has that changed? Has that evolved in how India now deals with luxury, or India now approaches luxury?
I think it approaches luxury very differently. Also, just because you have more access,
Right.
travel has become affordable to you. It's not an aspirational thing even for the middle class person, and
Hmm.
everybody can travel, right?
Right.
And forget going abroad. Every brand is available in India. And there are ways to get it. If it's on a sale, whoever can't afford it saves up and gets it. So you
Right.
do get, you do get access to it. From point of view that India approaches it, I think India likes fine things.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be something that's I mean, you have luxury brands that are India born as well, right?
Right.
As well. But India loves things that are exclusive. And even if the brand is still available in India, if that one piece that is not available in India is what Indians want.
Right.
And
I
that
know
has
that.
not changed.
Yeah, I've heard that sentiment also. No, I'm not going to go to the Indian store. Their collection is not going to be complete. I
It's
have
not
heard
the
that.
latest collection.
It's not the latest. It's not going to be complete. Yeah, absolutely. I know that sentiment. So Indians are becoming more desirous of exclusive stuff. They don't, even in luxury, they don't want the cookie cutter
No.
Michael Kors bag. They want the highest end. and they want what's available in a
They
China, or
want the runway collection,
they want a
basically.
runway correction. Absolutely. Um, and how is your association with luxury brands, or how you try to do those things, changed in light of how Indian tastes have evolved within luxury?
You know, in the last, I mean, I would just take the last 1 year. Everything has changed. Budgets have
Right.
changed.
Right.
um, Digital has become the new thing. So digital content, doing digital fashion shows with the luxury brands that are
Mhm.
showcasing elsewhere. Having one of my brands, I can't, damn, I'm old, I can't remember the name. It was they did it so well, Vineet. I can't explain to you. It was a luxury. It was a fashion show, right? It
Right.
happened in
Right.
the middle of COVID. I think
Right.
September last year. So on the runway, they had the models walking just as planned. But instead of people sitting on either side, there were screens.
Right. I
So there
remember
was one
seeing.
screen, and it was all the music. I mean, the international artists that I handle, and we work with the international stars. They were at
Right.
home, dressed up on the screen, and they were talking to each other screen to screen. So it was
Right.
really cool. I
I
mean,
remember
that's what you
also
call
seeing.
innovation.
Yeah. I remember seeing this. I think it was at.
In
I'm forgetting where
Paris,
it was. Yeah, I think.
I can't remember that. I
Yeah,
genuinely can't.
I think it was the
But that was,
Balmain show. Maybe. Maybe I'm not sure. I might be
I'm
forgetting.
blanking out on it. But I'm just saying, they started doing that. Obviously, India was not anywhere on the map for them to kind of do a lot of stuff with
Hmm.
there. But it was cool. They wanted to get Indian celebrities to be part of it. Unfortunately, everybody was too freaked out in India, and we all have were dealing with our own
Right.
insecurities and whatever was going on. So nothing really happened. But
Right.
I'm sure in after the vaccine and things settle down, maybe by end of 2021, 22, we will see cooler ideas. Right now, everything is on a standstill, to be
Right.
precise.
Right. It is. But I think people are trying very hard to come back. I think even
Yeah,
the India Show Week and Lakme Fashion Week also tried virtual shows this year.
yeah,
But I don't think they were the same experience
no,
that was the original one, right?
right.
Um, it's it's amazing the breadth of work that you've done. I mean, moving over from investment banking into this sort of luxury culture, branding, filmmaking, entertainment sort of space. Let me ask you this then. I'm sure it hasn't been easy, and there have been disappointments and failures, right? And especially for someone who's how do I say it gently? Creative entrepreneur, right? There are
Mhm.
disappointments and failures that happen at two levels. There is obviously the creative level of disappointment, something you tried to do didn't work out, or some an idea that you had different in your head, but its manifestation was subpar, for example. And then there's the entrepreneurial layer where you want to run a company a certain way, you want to build it a certain way, but that's also hard to do, right? Tell us about some of your disappointments and failures, and how you dealt with that and kept going.
You know, this goes back to a conversation I was having with someone, I think 2 days ago,
Mhm.
about I actually want to do something new this year, start
Right.
something. So the person's like, so what's stopping you? I'm like, oh, I don't have it in me. And that person just looked back and said, like, are you kidding me? You're running a company and you survived it. So I was told, again, this person is a well-known serial entrepreneur. So I was
Mhm.
told that in the journey of entrepreneurship, like everything else, it has a cycle. If you survive the first 4 years and you still continue, you're doing something right.
Right.
If you cross the 6 year mark and you still have money in your bank and you still have an office and you still have people who are reaching out to you to do stuff, then you will survive as a company.
Right.
They forgot COVID had to happen in between as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
But a lot of my competitors and I mean colleagues, and they did make it. They couldn't, sustain financially or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and things didn't add up. But uh, it's how do I put it? It takes a lot of every time you fall,
Mhm.
every two times you fall, the fourth and the fifth time you have to stand up even taller.
Right.
That is typically how I would. And there have been times where you're standing on it and somebody just pulls the carpet down right under your nose.
Right.
You're and you're just looking and saying, "Shit, I thought I had everything together," and that's where it fails. There are times when you make pitches, and they say they don't like the pitches, but you know that they've taken it, they've tweaked it, and they've given it to somebody else who's going cheaper,
Right.
and that happens to us even today.
And that happens a lot in this industry, doesn't it?
Yes,
I mean,
but you
there's
know what?
little sanctity for ideas or
Yeah, but
exclusivity and stuff.
you have to respect the fact that we're putting in time.
Right.
And we've had brands come to us say, "Oh, but this is how we work. We ask everybody to pitch." And that's fine. You do have to pitch, of course. But when brands ask you to detail out stuff and then say, "Oh, it's just a pitch," that's when I draw the line. And
Mhm.
it's a call that I take. My team just looks at me and says, "Are you sure you want to say no to that brand?" Like, you know what? They came to us for a reason. We gave them an idea. If they want us to flesh it out, hire us. Otherwise, too bad, right?
Absolutely.
And we keep getting faced with that. And failure, when it came to us once, is where we had a client who was I would say earlier on, right? It was a client that we had a kind of a retainer with them.
Hmm.
The person who was the main person, custodian of the P&L for getting us on board,
Right.
and that whole team got dissolved.
Ouch.
We had no clue how to manage. And I was earlier on in the company, right? So cash flows are important and you put in everything back in the company.
Hmm.
So I was like, shit, what do we do? And then we knew that somebody else went in, made a lower pitch, and got the bid.
Right.
So
Right.
I was like, okay. And this sounds really philosophical to say this, but if you go back to what I was saying, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And strangely, I love listening to Oprah's podcast, right?
Right.
And when I was listening about her journey, what she used to say, and she said when she started off, 20 other people started doing what we were doing. And which is true, because
Right.
when we started doing things the way we did, a lot of other companies came up. They said, "Oh, it's easy to start a company, let's start doing it." We
Hmm.
had people working for us who decided to, take off and you try to do the same thing, which
Right.
it sounds easier than it is because it takes a lot of hard work to build that relationships over the years.
Of
It's
course.
not something that happens overnight. So the point being, coming back to what she said that every time her team told her that, "Oh, this one is doing this and they're doing this as well and this is that," you don't look back. She said you just look forward and keep doing what you're doing better and better and better, and you just keep pushing yourself. Use everything you hear as a propeller to move forward, and that will just make you do things even better, and that will make you shine.
I
So
think,
that's what we
yeah,
use. Yeah,
yeah,
there are
that's
loads
brilliant.
of people.
Sort of tags back to the Gita, saying, "You do you, man. The rest will take care
Yeah,
of itself." Yeah.
yeah,
Brilliant. I think the uh, very potent answer to dealing with disappointment and failure when it turns you around and says, "Hey, these things happen, man. You have to keep focusing on what you're doing and growing better and stick to your principles." I think that's what gets you through, right? Sticking to your principles and just not
yeah.
take.
But there's one thing also. If every time I've got disappointed, and even till date, right, we face a lot of disappointment as well. I wish it didn't happen even at this stage, but it
Yes,
does.
we faced some disappointment late last
Yeah,
year, but that's all right.
yeah. But you work really hard. But what happens is you go back to that my favorite saying of Winnie the Pooh, right? The harder I work, the luckier I get.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And if something doesn't happen, it makes me want to work twice as hard or five times as harder and say, why did I not get that? Oh, because this happened. So let's try and do something else. But
Right.
work twice as hard. I mean, even COVID, right? We all were working from home. Productivity was, I would say, 1,000% for my team.
Yep.
And for us, and we reached out to people who we became so complacent earlier. Oh, we know them. We'll do this later. We'll reach out. But I don't think I've been so much in touch with people in the last 8 months
Mm-hmm.
than I was when things were normal.
Right.
You get more FaceTime with them, and the stupid Zoom call keeps happening all the time, and so on and so forth. And you get into people's houses, people who you're working with, okay, I have to feed my dog, so I'm coming back in a bit. Somebody says, listen, I have to do this for my kid, and virtual class, and you get it. Like, you see that humane side of them as well.
Right.
And For me, it's honestly, every time there has been disappointment, yes, of course, you get let down. And there are times, I think there was twice in my
Mhm.
entire 10 years, I wanted to shut down my company.
Right.
I was ready to. I said, this is it. I cannot do this anymore.
What caused that?
Uh, it was the disappointment of, we thought we were the, I mean, I think that was also earlier on in the game. So it's a little kiddish when I say it now.
Hmm.
But I thought, we had this movie marketing nailed down. I thought,
Right.
and also it's kind of being arrogant at that point, but I thought we were like the best and we had it nailed down and we were the only ones who were going to do it. And then suddenly, one another hardworking kid comes along and they're ready to do it at no cost or whatever it is. So
Hmm.
yeah, of course, people are, cognizant of the budgets and stuff. So
Right.
they got it and we didn't. And I was like, I thought it was ours. And how can that happen? Like
Mm-hmm.
something slaps you on the face.
Mm-hmm.
And also something happened with a celebrity who I worked with very, very, very closely. And that there was a space in between where for a couple of months we didn't work together. And that
Right.
really bothered me because I don't like anything that's not in equilibrium. I like everything to
Right.
be smooth.
Right. Right.
And that person believed in me a lot, always. And I look up to that person. So I was really disheartened by the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But things have to come around. What is down
Uh,
always
how,
goes up.
how did you walk back from the brink then?
Um, I just kept trying.
Right.
And that's what I can say back to it's in a happy space.
Right, that's fantastic, man. And I know it's in a happy space because because I know some of the really cool work that you're doing. The Airbnb bit really stands out, right? Let me ask you this now. You talked about reading being super important to you, right? Tell us your history with reading. I mean, how'd you get into it, and what are some of your favorites?
Age
What
7,
lessons you've got? 8-7, right? Wow.
I started a library.
With Winnie the Pooh.
Tinkle Comics,
Oh yeah,
Winnie the
okay.
Pooh,
Mhm.
Enid Blyton. Um,
You started a
mm,
library, you said,
yes.
like a lending
So
library.
yes.
Oh, how lovely.
So
So, like an
um,
entrepreneur at 7, then, not just a reader, an entrepreneur at 7. Sure.
yeah. So as kids, my parents always inculcated reading very important. So all of
Right.
us, my sisters as well, we read a lot. Like Enid Blyton, I love Enid Blyton books.
Right.
And Nancy Drew, Enid Blyton, Tinkle, Archie Comics, Asterix, name it, right?
Right.
I had my library of books for myself was huge, and my dad's books from his time were passed down to my elder sister, then to my other sister, and then he came to me.
Mhm.
And I loved reading at that point as well. So I used to go to the library to borrow books to read.
Right.
And in the olden age, when you open a book, at the end they have this little jacket, and then you put a card in that says so and so's taken the book, and then you sign,
Mhm.
and then you stamp it that it's taken.
Right.
I used to find that fascinating. So
Right.
what I did is I had more than 1,000 books, comics, etc.
Right.
I made that card for every single one of them,
Wow.
and that little jacket I replicated it,
Like you
and
handmade it
yes, handmade,
for 1,000
obviously.
books.
Yes, of course. Stuck
Wow.
it with, you get the chart paper, cut it,
Mhm.
did all of that. I also got a stamp made. I asked my dad's office to get me a stamp made. So, read, returned, all of that I got. Right?
Beautiful.
And I used to love that stamping business more than anything else as a kid. But so I started the library. It was 50p, $1 and $2.
Right.
And the entire lane around where I live started borrowing for me. So then, I ran a little library, which was so cool. I loved it. I stopped it after 2 years when obviously somebody didn't return the book and then I forgot. And then as kids, right, you start into something else.
Right.
But yeah, so that's when my learning started. I still have my Enid Blyton books, which I hold dearly to my heart. I love
Famous
them,
5 or Secret 7?
all of them.
No. We pick one.
Famous by.
Okay, cool.
Then when I moved to New York, I used to pick a book every week and read one book a week.
Right.
That's how it started. My collection of books is It's insane. I have autobiographies from, right from Walt Disney to Beethoven to Bach to Lee Iacocca to
Right.
whoever you name it. But I just find it interesting that I don't always read these managerial books. Yeah, I do
Mhm.
read some really stupid books as well. Like
Mhm.
I'm talking about mindless books. Like that movie that came out, Crazy Rich Asians.
Right.
So that Kevin Kwan had a whole series of it after
Yeah.
that. So I bought all of them. They are very entertaining.
I met him once.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I
Wow.
was I was in
I
Seoul.
love that movie.
Yeah, the writer, the guy who wrote the book. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I was in Seoul once, and he was there for an event, and we just got talking for a bit. He was an interesting guy.
Yeah. The other two books are very nice as well. You must read it.
Yeah, I will check it out. I haven't read the book though. I have seen parts of the movie, and I just thought it was wildly racist for a little bit. But that is just me,
But
and
that happens in every community.
it does, absolutely it does, and there's, I mean, it's no reason to hold it against him. They're just trying to express things, but
Yeah.
it's super interesting, man. I find it very impressive, for people who are able to commit to reading and
Yeah.
get the benefits of reading, right? It's such a simple activity, right? And I mean, while my reading has gone down, I've gone down maybe from about 20 books a year to 12 books a year now. I still find it supremely rewarding when you finish a book, right? When you finish a
Yeah.
book and you put it down, there's some part of you that still wants to continue and hoping that it's still there, and then there's some part of you that knowingly feels that it has learned something, right? That you feel like this
Correct.
is something you didn't know, or this is something you didn't understand better. And I would really wish more young people get into reading in a big way, right? I think it's one of the things that could save the world. um, what are you reading currently?
Currently, I'm actually researching on trends in travel.
Right.
Nothing interesting.
Is that
Nothing
Airbnb
that.
led?
No, that's led by all our tourism clients that we have. So
Right.
we're just trying to see new ways of getting back the travel interest in travel.
Mhm.
But actually, no, I've started reading a book again, which I read 14 years back.
Which one?
Monkey Business.
What's that about?
My life as an investment banker when I started as an analyst. It just brings back memories.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you read it,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much every analyst's life when they start off as an investment banker in mergers and acquisitions.
Right. I will check it
Like
out.
to the T.
I will check it out. Monkey Business, right?
Yep.
I will check it out. But Tanaz, it's been great talking to you. It's always great talking to you. So much to learn and so much to know from your experiences and your points of view about an ever-changing industry, right? Like the talent,
Correct.
marketing, entertainment industry is constantly getting disrupted, constantly changing. Sometimes due to internal factors, and sometimes, as we've seen in the last year, due to external factors, right? It's a business that requires a thick skin. It's a business that requires you to be thinking on your feet. It's a business that requires you to be innovating constantly, right? um, from your experience then, as both a creative thinker, someone who brings together collaboration, and someone who's been running a company now for 10 plus years, what advice would you give to young people who are starting out in this business?
Don't shy away from hard work. Nothing comes easy. You have to work hard to be able to get there.
Right.
It's not something that you can do overnight. Anything you want to do and excel at, you have to work at it. You
Right.
can't just you can't walk in and say I know it all. I mean, even today, if I have done something, as you said, the first, the second, and third time, I still think I have to go back and read and learn more about it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you have to be resilient and persistent.
Right.
Two adjectives and characteristics I think that are superbly important and you cannot forget. But my take, Vineet, goes back to I'm sure you've met a lot of the millennials. They think that everything is an overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
And they think the campaigns that they see, oh, it's so easy. It's just, let's just go for the shoot. They don't know the hard work that goes behind it. They
Right.
don't know the sweat and pain like all of us put in with creative campaigns, the pitches, approvals, and
The
so on and so
relationships.
forth. Yeah. and getting people to agree to do it.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
suddenly they decide not to do it. And then
Yep.
you have to turn it around and make them do it.
Yeah. Right.
Budget constraints, everything, right? But I just feel that today everybody thinks it's superbly easy. For them, it's, I don't want to do this now. I don't like it. It's not something I thought.
Mm-hmm.
It's versus when we were their age, where we'd at least give it a fair chance, work hard at it, and then if you can't do it, then decide to move on.
Right.
I
I
think
think
people are
yeah,
fickle.
that's golden advice. I think, and I see that. I was going to ask you about that as well, right? There is a generational shift in
Yeah.
this business, right? I mean, um, I talk to, and again, I mean, I'm not being ageist about it. I'm also old now, but I talk to people who joined this business in the early 2000s
Mm.
versus people who are joining this business in the last 3-4 years. There's such a shift in rigor, man. There's such a
Yeah.
shift. Uh, People who joined, for example, I know I did an episode with someone I respect a lot called Ganesh Iyer, who works at Radio Mirchi, and he joined out of IIM Ahmedabad. He joined Radio
Mm.
Mirchi in '98. You know what his first job was?
Well,
Crowd control at Marine Drive for a shoot.
wow.
That's an IIM Ahmedabad graduate joining the entertainment business and doing crowd control. And I'd be hard pressed to figure three young strapping lads who are from any other college to go and do crowd
No.
control anyway. It'll be impossible. You have to hire an agency and get a bouncer and do it now, right? So it's a big generational shift. I'm sure not all of it is for the worse. I'm sure it's helping our industry get organized a little bit more as well, and go away from unpaid labor. But
But
it
have you ever heard any? I mean, sorry, I'm cutting you on that.
No, no, no,
I've
no.
heard the most amazing excuses. I am allergic to sweat.
That's not an excuse. That's a disease.
No, no. This I am allergic to sweat.
I'm
I
joking.
cannot sit outside. I'm like, what? And it is a shoot you're going for. And I
Right.
was like, all right. I have heard the most insane excuses.
That's insane, man. To be allergic to sweat is a little much. I mean, is that a more philosophical situation here? I'm allergic to
I
sweat.
don't know. And then I heard stuff like, oh, but I was not allowed inside the trailer, the vanity van. So it's not okay for me to do this. I'm like, okay.
It's strange. I'm sure
Strange.
there is an education awaiting those young kids as well. This industry is not
Oh my God, yeah.
forgiving at all. It is cutthroat and hardcore. Um, Taz, wonderful to have you here on this episode to talk about this journey. I want to bring this to a close by asking you a couple of questions about what the future holds. Right? What are you excited about? I know it's COVID and it's hard to get excited about things, knowing that there's a lot of uncertainty and general sadness around as well. But what are you excited about? From
Excited about
your
our
perspective?
our music business actually. So
Right.
it's a new space that we started about 2 years ago. And I'll be honest, it's every day I learn about a new artist. My millennials know way more than I do.
Mhm.
But if we are working with international artists across the globe, we work with all the international labels. The biggest artists you can name: Selena Gomez, David Guetta, DJ Snake. The newest trending ones on top of the charts: Olivia Rodriguez, Trevor Daniels. But what is interesting in that is it's a clean slate.
Right.
We get to do what we want and make them, build them in India with partnerships, collaborations, marketing, PR, the whole gamut. It's a 360-degree project. So I think
Mhm.
we're the only company that do it in India. There are loads of them that do it internationally.
Right.
But yeah, it's exciting because I'm excited to build that business, and we're there. I mean, we're in just step two right now. We're long way to go, but nevertheless, I'm looking forward to that.
That
It's superbly exciting.
that's fantastic. And what are your plans for growing Bottomline further? I mean, I know you have an all women team. If I'm
Yes,
if I'm putting that right.
that's by accident. It's not.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
a happy accident.
one of my first interns in the first couple of years, he's a dear friend of mine, and honestly, if I pick up the phone today and I ask him to come and help, and I'm short staffed, he's obviously a director now and he does short films and he's in the US, he will still help me out.
Right.
He was the only guy that I hired and who I thought had I mean, no disrespect to guys, but I genuinely think women work harder.
Sure.
So
Sure.
we've given chances to guys. Of course, there have been a lot of guys who come in for my IIM trainees, management trainees, IIMT Ghaziabad, Nagpur, all of these guys. We do have guys come in for our summer
Hmm.
traineeships,
Hmm.
but on a full time basis, I just think every time I interview, it's always the women who impress me more because of they just work hard.
That's quite
And I'm
possible
saying that
and
to a
quite
guy,
true.
so
No,
sorry,
no, it's
but
quite possible, quite true. All the best performing people in my team are also women, to be honest. No disrespect to guys. I have some great guys who work with us, but I do agree that in some way, women do tend to work harder.
yeah,
Uh, Tanas, like I said, wonderful to talk to you on this episode. I really wanted to get a sense of your story, and you've given us such a wonderful lay of the land of how you moved from something that was so remote from entertainment into this field, and then against. I wouldn't say all odds, but against significant odds,
yeah,
put it together in a space that really wasn't developed as it is developed right now, right? Like last 20 years has been watershed for entertainment marketing, for all of this sort of cultural collaboration to come together. So wonderful to talk to you as a pioneer in this space and to get your thoughts. Before I let you go, there is a question that I ask everyone who is on this show. It is an entertainment recommendation from you, for all my listeners. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear about a book that's probably close to your heart. You already told me about Monkey Business, so that's off limits. But yeah, a book on or anything else, an entertainment piece that you would recommend to our listeners, something that's close to your heart, something that's been important to you in life.
stay hungry, stay foolish.
Steve Jobs.
No,
Oh, Rashmi
rush.
Bansal.
Okay.
Oh, right, of course, Rashmi Bansal, ex Mad Magazine.
Yeah, also the thing is, I mentioned that earlier on, right? When I was deciding to start this, I had a couple of people who I did speak to for advice. And when they told me just go in deep dive entrepreneurship, Deep Kalra for Make My Trip, and he had gifted me this book. And it's exceptionally close to my heart. And when you read it, you read about the inspirational stories that people have created from where to where the companies have reached, and it's fabulous. You must read it just to just to see that people who are normal people come up an idea can become a $1 billion business. It's just
Right.
fabulous. I know, Vineet, my company will not go bigger than how it is. I'd like to keep it boutique. We've had this discussion a lot.
We have but bigger boutique then. Like I said, wonderful talking to you, Tanas. Thank you so
Thank
much
you so much for
for the
having me.
time. You have a great weekend and the rest of the week ahead.
You too.
This is Vineet Kanabar saying goodbye.